Hello, everyone. This is Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me and my guest, Irene Fehr, as we talk tonight about how you can access and fully experience your sexual self, feel your deepest desires, and connect deeply with a partner through the practice of orgasmic meditation. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to just start off by telling you a little bit about myself, so anyone who's on the call who's not familiar with me, and how Irene and I met. And then she will share with us her story and what you can do to reignite your life both in and outside of the bedroom. And just as a reminder, at the end of our call tonight, there will be an opportunity for some questions and answers. So be sure to be jotting down your thoughts, responses, questions as we go along so that when we get to that portion of our call, you'll be all set to go. So first of all, just a little bit about me. I'm a sexual abuse recovery coach, and I work with survivors of childhood sexual abuse who are beyond sick and tired of feeling broken, unfixable, burdened by the past. And I really help my clients let go of the pain of sexual abuse and finally feel normal, move on with their lives. And through my work, I came upon a seminar, a coaching program to really support me in my efforts. And that's where I met Irene. And we were both there really passionate about our work and bringing what we're doing to the world and getting it out there. And we had a great conversation the first time at a little cocktail hour after the first night of the seminar. And I was just immediately struck by how tuned in and passionate Irene really is about helping men and women, and maybe primarily women in this particular branch of her work, really get connected to who they are and how sexuality and femininity and all of those pieces play such an important role in that. And so I just knew immediately that I had to have her come and share what she does with my community, because it's so important and a topic that's so meaningful and maybe sometimes shied away from. But I hope that through our conversation tonight that everyone will feel empowered to talk about these topics more so. So a little bit about Irene. Irene is a coach and a fierce champion of women owning their femininity and sexuality and igniting the world with our power and leadership. And she works with savvy, progressive, high-achieving women to connect to their wild, passionate, and powerful selves by opening up their sexuality and accessing the confidence to express themselves fully and ask for what they truly want. That's amazing. I want that. Give me some of that. and she also works with men. And, you know, I think we're a ladies' night tonight unless we have some men popping in, which is totally fine. But she does also work with men to help them gain confidence to approach turned-on, self-actualized women and connect with them deeply. So she's a sexuality coach and trainer of orgasmic meditation. And you can certainly visit her website, www.irenefehr.com, and it's IRENEFEHR. And we'll be saying that again throughout the night. So don't worry, we'll have plenty of opportunity to snag that. So Irene, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Rachel, thank you so much for having me. This is such a pleasure, and I totally echo what you said about our first meeting together. I had the same thoughts. Oh, my God, I want to work with this woman. I want to join you in your mission, because our missions are so similar, and I think our passions are too. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to join all of you in introducing this practice to you and opening up the discussion about this topic, which is, I think, so important and so critical to all of us, and it's also so difficult to talk about. So I want to acknowledge you for showing up and being here, and I'm just really honored to be on this program.
Awesome. Well, to get us started, you've done a great job this past couple of weeks sharing some of this information already through the blog. And you shared a little bit about your story and how you got started. But for those who didn't get a chance to read it, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this practice and this work?
Absolutely. So I'll try to summarize this really quickly. My journey into work with sexuality, started really by accident and it had really nothing to do with sex. I thought I was living a perfectly great life on the outside. I had great jobs. I had a marriage which looked really good. I had a beautiful apartment in San Francisco and a really handsome dog. I was volunteering abroad. Everything looked really perfect and great on the outside. And on the inside, at the same time, I was perfectly miserable. I was living in fear, in insecurity, in shame of who I was. I didn't even know I could live from my desire. I very much lived a life of what I'm supposed to do and what I'm supposed to be. And effectively, I led a double life. And I was able to hide all the insecurities and all that with everything else except one area, in the bedroom with sex.
Mm.
And for me, I didn't have many sexual experiences. And the ones I did have were just full of shame for me, shame about my body, shame about thinking I didn't know what to do. And also there was a lot of shame and a lot of frustration about one thing, which even still today it's hard for me to talk about, which was the inability to climax.
All right.
Everyone in the media talks about, the big O, big orgasm, having, orgasm with your partner at the same time, and my inability to do so, moreover, I wasn't even close to being able to climax, led me to think I was broken, I wasn't good enough as a woman, there was something wrong with me, no man will want me. And as a result, I shut down, I kind of withdrew. And I didn't know how to ask my partners how to get me there. And most of the time they weren't actually really interested in doing that either. And so we were kind of like stuck in this place of no communication, no intimacy. And while I was really withdrawing and shutting down and my sex drive was really suffering, I just was not interested in going there.
Mm-hmm.
And, and how did I compensate for that? I have always been a brainy child, and so I've really focused on things that occupied my brain, further withdrawing myself or separating myself from my body.
Right.
And that also showed up in my life as losing energy, losing excitement for life. Everything was just like a grind. It was just like turning the chains without lubrication. I was just not excited about doing things, and at the same time I had this lingering feeling inside, there must be more to life than this. It's kind of like emptiness feeling, like I am missing something inside. And about 3 years ago, I hit rock bottom. It was just I couldn't move anymore. It was a point in my life where I could no longer feel desire, and I became undesirable, where men couldn't feel me. There wasn't anything left in me except, analysis and ideas and things I could talk about from my head. But from my body, there was no emission coming out. And it was really scary to see that even, when I lost weight or looked great or bought this amazing new outfit, men weren't looking at me at all. Like they were not seeing or feeling me, and that was incredibly scary.
Right.
And at the end of that year, 3 years ago, I had a breakthrough. And first, I had to have a breakdown where I hit rock bottom before I had this breakthrough where I realized that I had been living this double life. One was in my head because I was escaping my body and all the shame around that and my own sexuality, and that chasm was just too painful to continue living. or
Right.
or having those two lives was just too painful. And I went on this journey to look deeply into myself, and I started working with two amazing life coaches who kept asking me, what do you want in your life? And for the first 6 months, I couldn't answer that. They kept telling me, feel in your body. What is your body telling you? And I was like, I can't feel my body.
Right.
I couldn't access anything there. And that was really painful. And it also led me then to looking into my sexuality. And what I think of as sexuality is everything that I am as a woman, beyond gender, beyond orientation, beyond beyond the cultural stuff. It's more of what is my soul? And my soul is made up of my essence, my emotions, my feelings, my desires, all of that. Mm-hmm. And my expression of all those things is my sexuality. It's how I show up in the world as I am, whether it's in feminine energy or masculine energy or a combination of those. Right. So for me, that is sexuality. And when I started really thinking about that, I realized that at that deep level, I thought I was broken. And that was a painful realization, and it was also naming that for me was the first step to actually awakening the desire to change that perception about myself.
Uh-huh.
And I went to my coach, and she recommended that I go to this organization called One Taste, and it was founded by Nicole Dandone, and both she and the organization teach about female orgasm and a practice called orgasmic meditation. And to just fast forward a little bit, this is a practice I trained with One Taste to become an orgasmic meditation trainer, and that is the practice I'm going to speak about today. Mm-hmm. There was something that piqued my interest about this practice from the start. It was just
what? What is that?
This is this is so crazy. This is I have so much charge around this. This is not the kind I'm not the kind of woman to do this. And still there was something that was you know what, I think there's something here for me to learn by doing this. And so what this is, what orgasmic meditation is a 15-minute partnered sexuality practice that involves a stroker and a strokee. A strokee is a woman, and the stroker could be a man or a woman. And both partners are clothed except she takes her pants off, lays down, and for 15 minutes, timed precisely on a timer, the stroker strokes the 1 o'clock spot of her clitoris. Up, down, maybe a little bit faster, a little bit slower, whatever the right speed feels like at that moment for 15 minutes. There's, like I said, timer, there's lube, there's gloves, and it's all in a nest, meaning there's a setup for this with pillows and blankets on the floor where this is happening. And I'll explain why these are important too in a second. There is no other touching than the stroking of the clitoris. There is no need for reciprocation, meaning you don't have to touch him. You don't have to give him a blowjob afterwards. There's absolutely no requirement for anything other than the stroking of her clitoris. The woman gets to ask for adjustments, and the stroker proposes adjustments. Would you like me to go a little bit faster, a little bit slower? Or the strokee will ask, could you move a little bit to the left or to the right? And there's nowhere to go, nothing to do in this practice. Just focus on your own body, whichever position you're in, and focus on the point of connection with your partner. There's no need to climax. There's no need to to flail and scream in passionate orgasm, like we see, we see in porn videos.
Right.
You're there just to experience and to feel.
Yeah.
And at the end, there's this one really important thing, which is you get to share a frame, which is a snapshot of a moment you experienced during the OM, or orgasmic meditation for short. And that's to connect the partners over our mutual experience. Wow. A frame would look something like, there's a moment when you were stroking up that I felt an electric jolt running through my legs. And it's so powerful to experience something in our partner's body and to know about it. And it's such a beautiful moment of connection at the end of the practice that closes the container of the practice.
Right. Wow. Irene, I just thank you so much for sharing your journey in getting here to this place and coming to be a practitioner of orgasmic meditation. And I'm really excited to share this information, with our listeners because, me, somebody who hasn't heard about it, hasn't done it, it's like, what in the world? What are you talking about? I'm going to get, with a stranger and the whatever, 15 minutes. That's a long time, And so first of all, if anyone listening is kind of like, whoa, wait, what is this all about? Don't worry. That's a fair response. It's not an everyday thing that you hear about, but I know that Irene's going to really help us understand the impact and the broader implications. And even just from this first piece that you just shared, I felt myself almost just relaxing into that and going, wow, to just not have to perform, right? Taking that whole performance piece out of sex and sexuality and just being able to tune in to my body and what I'm experiencing and how different touch causes different sensations. I know we're going to talk about the full spectrum from it being uncomfortable to learning to be comfortable and what you gain from it. But one thing I really appreciate about this is it sounds like the whole process is very deliberate, that it's really been developed and specifically put together to be an exact practice. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, why there are these structures and what they're all about and why they're important?
Absolutely. And this is such a critical piece, the deliberateness about this practice. And there is a reason why there are these specific rules and agreements. And for one thing, it differentiates this practice, the sexuality practice, from sex and sexual play. And why is that important? Well, because we come with so many, especially as women, with so many preconceptions, conditioning, and also experiential learning from sexual activity that creates a lot of fear. Fear of reciprocation. Will I have to do it for him even if I don't want to? This seems like about me, but then it kind of switches to be about him, about male partner. Or will I have to do it for him even when I'm not in the mood? There's also fear of going further than feels right in her body, effectively losing control of the situation because either she's unable to say no or he's being forceful. And then there's fear of rejection from partner if she is not enjoying it. Women are often, and I've definitely experienced that, women are often scared to say something because what if he thinks, I'm being selfish, or what if he thinks I don't like him, all those things. So these experiences, these fears then make sex and sexual activity unsafe in a way, and women tend to pull away. Again, that was definitely my experience, where all these fears just had me withdraw completely.
Right.
And the important tenets behind OM are there to create safety, and those key tenets are simplicity, goallessness, and attention. And, there's another piece about safety for women, which is related to the part of our brain that's called the vigilance center. And that's a part that's constantly running and calculating, is my body okay? Is everything okay? What's going on? Am I safe? Is everything done? Are the dishes clean? Are the kids, asleep?
Yeah.
What do I do tomorrow? It's like constantly,
Right.
circulating thoughts in our heads.
I call that the female spaghetti brain.
Oh, I love that. It's endless. The
Exactly.
to-do list in our heads is endless.
And all weaving and on top of each other and mixed up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally. And that part of our brains, and this is worse in women than in men, it doesn't shut off, except during orgasm.
Hallelujah.
And at least there's one place in our
At
lives.
least there's one moment.
Yes, there's hope. And there are actually MRI studies being done out of a lab of Barry Komisaruk out of Rutgers University that show this effect, that there is a part of the brain that shuts off during deep relaxation and release of women's bodies. And that's really important because we need that release to counterbalance the continuous, ongoing, and ever-increasing stress in our lives as women. Stress from trying to do everything at work and at home and being everything to everyone. So there's both a pleasure of having that part shut off, and then there's also a real benefit, chemical, biological benefit for that brain to shut off for us so that we can relax deeply and shed some of that stress. And, of course, we all know the negative side effects of stress in our bodies. So back to oming, and the elements of simplicity, goallessness, and attention are there to help her calm down and relax and really drop the woman's guard so that she can go into the deep experience of allowing her body to respond naturally to stimulation, as opposed to, like you mentioned, sexual performance.
Right.
Pleasing him, looking good, achieving orgasm on cue, all these things are about performance. And how OM is different is that it's really just about being there, feeling it, experiencing it.
Yeah.
So let me mention a little bit about each of these principles. So simplicity. This is where we are separating pleasure and relaxation and orgasm from sex and from romance. There's no need for candles. There's no need for a glass of wine beforehand. I actually recommend not drinking wine around this practice or any kind of alcohol so that you can experience your body on its own, fully, without any stimulation or depressants in alcohol's case.
Right.
We remove any kind of exchange of services or reciprocity. It's not about doing anything for him, and vice versa. From the man's side, it's not working her up for anything. You're there for the sake of experiencing. And it's the point of contact between his finger, and I'll say his for simplicity's sake, the stroker's finger,
Sure.
And her clitoris. I mean, that's the point of the practice, is that connection. And there's also a reason why it's 15 minutes. It's about simplicity of the practice, and it's about her knowing that this is going to last for 15 minutes, not more, not less. It's about just setting expectations so, again, she can relax deeper into the experience.
Right. Yeah. I love that.
The other piece is goallessness. Back to performance. Traditional sex, as pretty much everything in our results-oriented culture, is about performance. In sex case, it's climax. Let's get there. Let's have a big one. Let's get there fast. Let's do it together. And, of course, there's pleasure and there's wonder. It's wonderful when that happens. And when we put so much pressure on ourselves to have it a certain way and to perform a certain way, that creates performance anxiety. And here's kind of the way the scenario looks like in regular sex. Women take longer to climax, and if she doesn't do it on cue, she feels like she's broken. And then it becomes, performing for him instead of allowing her own turn on to arise and overtake her body. Really the way orgasm works naturally, he works to get her off. Mm-hmm. And then it's about him feeling performance anxiety, like, am I doing it right? Why isn't she moaning?
Both of you. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it happens to both partners at the same time, which then creates a disconnect. He's in his head, she's in her head, and they're kind of doing the movements, but there's no deep connection there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then if this is not working for her, most women are really shy about telling him what to do. So then rather than ask for what she wants, women will just give up inside, say something like, fuck it, I'll just finish him off quickly and get this over with.
Go get my book, my tea, and be on to whatever. I said, go get my book and my tea. Maybe I'm revealing myself too much.
Exactly.
But yeah, right.
And then
kind of become resigned.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not getting what I want, and so whatever, I'll just, make him happy and get it over with, which then puts her pleasure on the back burner, which then breeds resentment for her, and he doesn't even know what's going on.
Right.
And resentment breeds contempt, and that's a lethal thing in a relationship. Contempt, it just creates this vicious cycle of disconnect and more lies between partners.
Right.
So when we remove the goal of climax, then she doesn't have to perform, nor does he have to try to get her off. She's just there to feel her body during stimulation and allow the orgasm to arise naturally. And he's just there to feel her and give her physical pleasure as her body wants it. Mm. And I emphasize that because when you tune into our own bodies and then our partners, we can actually feel what their bodies are asking for.
Right.
And to me, this is essentially teaching men how to feel women, or read our minds.
Yeah.
And read our minds through our bodies, because really, from doing this practice for 2 years, I'm just amazed how much information it actually gives out. Mm-hmm. It's about slowing down, removing the goal, and actually listening to that whisper,
right,
and tuning into it. And then it's also the practice is about teaching women how to relax. Like we always read about, you need to relax deeply to experience orgasm. Well, this is that part of relaxing so deeply and allowing the body to take over an orgasm, not will the orgasm to happen.
Right.
It's about just feeling it through our bodies.
Right.
And here I want to really quickly differentiate climax from orgasm. So climax is what we typically think of orgasm, or what media and books traditionally call orgasm, which is the release of sensation at a peak. Mm-hmm. It's going over a cliff. It's a point of no return. Once you go in it, you just come out at the end. There's no way of stopping it. The way I talk about orgasm, which comes from One Taste and this practice, is that orgasm includes climax. But it's so much more. It's about the entire process of being turned on, which starts from maybe feeling a little bit of heat in your palms, to having your heartbeat quicken, to, maybe some shaking in your knees, to pulsation in your pussy, to the prolonged wave of pleasure in your body. Right. All of that is orgasm. Every point along that trajectory is orgasm. And it doesn't have to stop. It doesn't have to stop. It can be continuously flowing through us. And in an OM, climax is not the goal. If there is one goal, of an ohm. It's about experiencing orgasm in your body. That broader, broader spectrum of turn on in our bodies, whatever that looks like. And there's a huge range. It could be, the body gyrating. It could be laying completely in total stillness and not making a single movement or sound. It could be screaming. It could be crying. It could be falling asleep. I've had many ohms where I have fallen asleep. And that is okay.
That's fabulous. I love it.
That's what my body needs, and it's about being total approval of that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And
I just want to, Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to pause there because there's just so much in what you've said, and you really blew my mind here with the climax versus orgasm. Orgasm includes climax. I think that I just want to really highlight that again for anyone who's listening to really hear that and think about how your sexuality, how your partnership, how your experience of sex changes when it's, you have all of these elements, the whole process being a part of, orgasm, as opposed to these are like the sideline items, and maybe I get them sometimes, maybe I don't, but somehow I'm still supposed to come and be pleased and all that. So that really stood out to me, and then I just wanted to kind of reiterate and highlight that for folks.
Yeah.
I think it's very profound.
Yeah, and for me, it was a hugely profound shift that helped me be really comfortable with that perception that I was broken. That I thought because I couldn't climax that there was something wrong, and I was completely disregarding all the journey to the destination.
Right.
And it's a reframe of, hey, the journey is just as important, and there's so much along the journey to experience that sometimes the destination doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah. And, the whole thing about paying attention to what's along the journey is exactly the last element that's really important in this practice, which is attention.
Okay.
And, for me, this practice allowed me to get the nutrients that I needed around attention. And what I mean by that is that one of the missing elements or one of the missing nutrients in women's lives is attention. We avoid it because of shame and discomfort with our bodies. But it's really what we need, that deep attention, connection to who we are is so important for women. And then on the other side, men don't know how to give it because women don't know how to teach men how to give it. Plus, of course, all the cultural stuff and conditioning, you've got have us, not know how to do that. And when you slow down and get outside of your head about how it's supposed to be, and when you can give exquisite attention to one another, it's in that attention that we get to see each other as another human being. And we get to learn about our bodies and what they want, like tuning into that whisper about what our bodies want and need and desire. And that's a reflection of us. And also what our partners want and need and desire. And in that, we get to really connect.
Yeah.
And also when you slow down, like I mentioned, learning how to discern the whisper from your body, learning how to discern the different sensations. There's so much that our bodies emit. There's heat and there's coolness, tingling, electric jolts, sensation of running water, or a feeling of butteriness. By the way, these are all examples of frames from an ohm. These are actual sensations that you can feel when you really slow down. And that's amazing. For me, it was just mind-blowing to know, oh, my God, my body does that?
Nice. I'm totally watching out for butteriness from now on.
It's amazing.
It's like looking for that
slathered.
That's
it's like being slathered in butter. Yeah, it's quite exquisite. Yeah, so it's really awesome.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to mention really quickly about that both, I want to be clear that both partners are oming. There's no giver or receiver in this practice. So it's an active activity for both partners. For the woman, the active role is in receiving, and you have to be actively doing that. You have to be actively opening up to receive. You have to be letting your stroker in, and to be able to maintain connection. And for the other side, for the stroker, he has to also really surrender and let go of the ideas of how it's supposed to be and how he needs to stroke you to make you get off, and just feel her. And in order to know what stroke is right, what would be the next stroke that feels right for her. So there's a lot of, it's not a passive practice at all. It's very much an active practice, and it's an activity that's very deliberate and requires a lot of attention.
Got it.
And as a result, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of safety around this. It's not mindless movement just to get off. It's not just haphazard. It's very mindful. It's a mindfulness practice. It's a very simple practice for a reason, which is again safety, and that safety it allows the natural flow of orgasm or turn on in a woman's body to arise. And that's, to me, that is then the gateway to the liberation of desire for women, to the liberation of really for allowing that deeper self to come out and to express myself. And I mean desire in the wider sense, desire for connection, desire for love, desire for being seen, desire for being touched. That was missing for me. I
just want to pop in real quick because I thought that was something from what you shared early on that really stood out to me, was that as you became more and more disconnected from your own desire and from your sexuality, it was like a tamping down in other areas of your life as well. Those areas kind of became numb or not as full of energy as you would want them to be. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had no idea related to my sexuality at that time, but absolutely, I experienced that everywhere. I was missing that zest for life. I was missing that energy to get out of bed and do things. And I was seeking out more and more of activities that would help me relax, but in a way of like falling asleep. Like I needed to sleep more because I was just really tired. I had no energy. I needed to have more time off from invigorating activities because my body was just really tired, and the fatigue was just setting in deeper and deeper, and I thought more rest was the answer, but it wasn't. It was almost like the wrong answer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I imagine there are probably many women on the call today who are very busy in their lives and, let me volunteer over here, or let me go and take care of this, or let me turn my attention here, and are experiencing that sense of kind of lack of joy or feeling downtrodden or like just exhausted. Yeah. And by really taking a look at what's happening in, like, is desire flowing? Is it moving in your life? How that might actually bring more energy into things for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really, you hit it on the spot there, and it's about energy flowing into you. And I deeply believe in we're not stagnant, stable bodies. There's always energy running through us, and desire is one of those currents that's running through us. And so if there's no, if I don't give myself permission to really express desire because of insecurity and shame, and then it becomes this cycle where I don't even know how to have desire, then it creates a blockage, and then desire is fuel for all these other areas in our bodies, in our lives. You know, we volunteer and do all these activities because we have a desire to change people's lives, a desire to do. And so that blockage then affects other areas profoundly.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
And
so
I was going to mention that, you know, this that what I'm starting to realize from my own experience and then working with women is that women have a lot of desire, and then we have a system that really doesn't allow for it. There's the external pressures, the conditioning, all that, and then there's the internal system, our own beliefs about ourselves and security that keep the desires locked down. And that's a millennia-old trauma that has women clamped down on sexual desire. And it's something that's so prevalent that we need to work on both externally by changing perceptions, and then also internally by changing our own beliefs about it and giving ourselves permission.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, you know, as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about, myself, and also knowing, you know, that maybe some of our listeners are coming from a background of trauma, sexual abuse. And as I was talking with some friends about this upcoming call, they're like, well, can't I just do it on my own? Like, isn't there a way to, like, get around this? Maybe I could, you know, start, you know, particularly, like, if you have sexual trauma in your background or you feel really turned off or, you know, having a hard time connecting with a partner, that, well, maybe I'll just do this for myself. But it sounds like it's it's kind of built in to the practice that you're working with a partner. Can you tell us a little bit about why that's important, why self-pleasure isn't kind of on the list of things to do when it comes to this particular process that you're talking about?
Absolutely. And I get this question all the time. So thank you for asking it. I know it definitely comes up for pretty much everyone I talk to about this practice. Doing it with a partner is what makes this practice so potent. And I believe that fundamentally we are all about human connection. We get off from human connection. It's that we need human connection to self-actualize ourselves and to, you know, we feel good in the presence of other people. And of course, like you mentioned, with sexual abuse and trauma, many of us have experienced deep trauma where other people have hurt us physically and or emotionally. And I believe that in those cases, it was because we were fundamentally disconnected from each other. So we could not feel each other, we could not empathize, and we were, you know, people were capable, not we, other people were capable of doing harm because they were disconnected from other people. Mm-hmm. And it's totally normal to think that, oh, you know, I can make it all work in my head, I'm all fine in my head, but oftentimes it breaks down when we're in the presence of another. Someone makes a comment, and that triggers us and sends us into insecurity and shame, and we withdraw and fight, flight. We do fight, flight, or freeze in response to that. And again, it actually prolongs the cycle of withdrawal. And so facing that shame and those insecurities in the presence of another person is a whole different thing. It's chargy. It's probably the most difficult thing that we as human beings get to do in this life is staying conscious in the presence of another person while our own stuff is happening inside. And it's about asking for what you want and standing in your power, holding ground in presence of another person. These are that's what makes the practice so powerful. And it's also things that we all want to learn. We don't want to check out. We don't want to, repeat patterns of running away from issues.
Right. Right.
And then for women especially, women need connection. While vibrators can do the physical trick or just even stimulating ourselves, they do not provide the emotional aspect that we need that comes from another person. And they don't provide, again, vibrators or self-stimulation doesn't provide us oxytocin, which is the pleasure hormone, which comes from touch of another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a critical hormone that we need to fight the stress hormone cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
That is just so important to us as women, to any human being, men or women, but to women especially. Like I mentioned, because stress has such deep and profound negative impact on our bodies.
Right. Right.
And then another reason is that we cannot take ourselves out of control. I mean, think about it. If you are doing the stimulation, you are in control of it,
Right.
whether it's with a vibrator or just your hands. And if you're worried about, the safety piece, without someone holding that safety for you, you're maintaining control.
Right. Right.
And so that's, again, that's where the partner comes in. It's very important to do it with a partner so that they can create that safety for us to go out of control and also create that container where we can practice working through some of our deeper shame and insecurities, which have us check out otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I know that it can feel confronting, and I'm sure the first experience is, like any first experience, a little awkward, a little, what's happening here, not sure. But what I love about the practice is that it really sounds like it's set up so that there's a really safe container. But what if somebody is not in a relationship or doesn't want to? You mentioned earlier that the stroker could be a female partner. Ladies, call your best friends.
Yeah.
I think that could be a really profoundly amazing experience. Joking aside, I think that women who are confronted by being touched by men because of abuse, to allow a trusted female friend to begin this practice with you, I think could be extremely healing. But so if somebody doesn't have a partner or isn't comfortable, with a male partner, what are the options? How do they do this practice?
Yeah, you mentioned doing it with a female partner or friend. That's totally fine. Also, I do want to say that this is a sexuality practice and not sex. So all kinds of partners are welcome. You can ask friends, lovers, present or past, friends with benefits, whatever it is, and strangers. And I don't mean total strangers on the street. I mean there's a community of practitioners of OM, especially in San Francisco as well as in LA and Austin, Texas, and New York. And once you're trained in the practice, you can access the network and connect with others. Mm-hmm. And I know that many women are worried about this, and so many of my clients mention this all the time, ask me this all the time. Like, what if I start getting attached to my own partner? And I want to say, great. Notice what is happening and explore what is arising in you. Explore what kind of things are coming up and how are you working through that. Because OM it's like an experiment. It's like a controlled experiment that you do day to day as a practice. And because it's the same every day, the setup is the same, the timing, everything is the same, you get to actually notice what arises in you, which is the different, the variable from day to day. And so play with it, experiment with it, notice without judgment what comes up, and see how you want to deal with it, and how your body wants to deal with it versus how your conditioning is prompting you to deal with it. And that's an area to explore and play. And it's an area to build trust with your partner and ask for what you want and design what that looks like for both of you. So
I think that one thing that's really coming to mind is the fact that, that sex is never just about sex. It's all these other elements that you're pointing at. It's about attention. It's about connection. It's about communication, trust, and asking for what you want, owning what you want, being comfortable in it. And so it's really fabulous that through this practice you actually have this opportunity to grow and stretch in these other areas. And I'm sure that translates out into your life in general, right? It doesn't just stay in the nest, so to speak, but that you end up taking those lessons learned into other areas of your life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The confidence piece was critical, and I noticed the changes in myself outside of owning, outside of sex, completely. In the workplace, almost immediately. Learning how to ask for what I want, like owning that and not apologizing for it, happened very quickly in the rest of my life. And for the first time in my life, I think it was about a month after I started owning, that I asked for a raise and a promotion. I proactively asked for what I wanted in my corporate job, and I got it. And I was unapologetic. I wasn't pushy or aggressive or any of that. I just kind of firmly and assertively asked for what I wanted and got it. And it was just amazing how asking, could you move a millimeter to the left on my clitoris to my owning partner, affected that, and it did. Because when you're in that vulnerable position with your legs splayed and someone is touching your clit, and oh my God, you can't go more vulnerable than that. And once you hit that place, everything becomes so much easier. And it really has had and still does profound impact on the rest of my life.
That's amazing. I mean, I've always thought, sex and sexuality, it's also interconnected. We can't compartmentalize, these aspects of our humanness, so to speak. And if we're feeling locked down and blocked in one area, that it's trickling over. It has to. It has to trickle over into other aspects and parts of our lives. And so by, having flow and ease in, our sexuality, our relationships, our inner life, our, spirituality, our thought life, that's when we really have that full flow in our lives and deep, appreciation comes to mind, and connectedness and openness and availability of opportunities. Like, things just start to come in, and you start to take hold of things as well. I love that.
Yeah. I love how you said the availability of things. That's so true. When you're holding energy in, and when there's only a subset of things that you permit yourself to do or can do, then that limits our experience of life. And so when you open that up, and this practice does that, it helps you open up to so many different things that we don't allow ourselves to do, then that happens in all areas of our lives. And I experienced that so profoundly. And literally, this practice helped me finally leave my corporate job and pursue my life's work, because I got the confidence to do that, because I got the confidence to say yes to my desire and to go after it. And that was something that had been trying to do for many years. And it happened thanks to the benefits of this practice, everywhere in my life.
Right. Well, I know I could ask question. I mean, I have a million questions. But I think now might be a good time to see what's on the minds of people who are listening. And but before so hang tight. I think we'll switch over to the Q&A in just a minute. But what I know, Irene, is that you've now taken this amazing journey that you've been on, and what you've learned, and that you are now, offering this work and working with women so that they can have this same sense of, freedom and expression and connectedness to their sexuality, and gain all of these things that you're talking about: confidence, resilience, power. So, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about that?
Absolutely. And I really enjoyed doing this talk. And like you said, I have so much more to share, and you have so many more questions. There's so much more to go into in terms of what there is in the practice, and then also how to do it and getting trained on it. And I will talk more about increasing connections with your partner through this practice next week when we open it up to both men and women.
Right.
And I also want to continue giving you support on your journey and offer you an opportunity to go deeper into this work, to get training on this practice, and also to get the support you need to go deeply into yourself, your sexuality, and work through some of the blocks that are holding you back from doing what you want. Mm-hmm. And so the next best step I recommend is I'm offering a free 90-minute basically strategy call called Reignite Your Inner Fire with me, where we'll explore your desires, see what's stopping you from having them, and figure out what the next right steps are for you, whether it includes OM or something else. That's open. And I'm offering the session for the first 5 people to email me tonight. My email address is ignitedwoman. It's IGNITED, woman, singular, WOMAN, @gmail.com. And again, the first 5 people to email me, I will send you a link to a calendar and set up this free session, 90 minutes, to see how I can offer support to you. And then there's also my website, Irene Fehr irenefehr.com.
Got it. Yeah, and for everyone listening, I really want to encourage you to take advantage of this strategy session with Irene. As you can tell, she's a powerful woman. She packs a punch, and she's got a lot of great insight and intuition, and can really help you get connected to what's stopping you in this area. And I want to really highlight the fact that, orgasmic meditation is a piece of the work that Irene does, that there are lots of ways that she can support you and guide you and work with you. So even if you're thinking, I'm not sure about this whole oming thing, don't let that be a block for getting in touch with her, because she has a broad spectrum of skills and tools that she brings to the table. So take advantage of her complimentary consultation. There really are only 5 available, so we have 60 people registered, so they're going to go. So make sure you email her at ignitedwoman@gmail.com. And if you happen to not get that, or you're not sure, email me, coach@rachelgrantcoaching.com, and I'll get you connected to Irene. So let's say, you ready for the Q&A?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so I just want to remind everyone on the call that this call is being recorded. So if you would like your question edited from the recording, please state that as soon as you come on to the line. If you're going to talk with us live, then you'll know I'm calling on you, because I'll read the last 4 digits of your phone number. You can also text questions, if you prefer, to 650-283-5215. Again, the number is 650-283-5215. So I'm going to turn on the Q&A queue, and if you want to raise your hand to ask, what you're going to press is *6, and then you'll be prompted, or press 1. Either one of those usually tends to work, *6 or 1. Okay, So I think I got that set up correctly. It's all there. All right, awesome. The first time I did this, Irene, I totally forgot to put the Q&A thing on, and I kept going, why isn't there anyone raising their hand? Like, oh, because they can't. They can't raise their hand. So don't be shy. And while I'm waiting for people to text or raise their hand, I want to go back to a piece that we were talking about a little bit earlier, which is going to be near and dear to my heart. For folks who may have some sort of trauma or abuse, and I do want to highlight the fact that even for women who haven't been abused, they might have had just a shitty sexual experience or a really bad partner or have other things that are blocking them. But if there's anything that, for women where it just feels really particularly hard to approach sexuality and sex and feeling their bodies, being in their bodies, is there anything that you recommend they do before starting an orgasmic meditation practice?
Absolutely. So, this practice is right for anyone whose desire to reconnect to their sexuality outweighs their fear 51% to 49%. Really, that's all it takes, that 1% bias towards desire. And there will be still 49% of fear to work through. And there will be things that come up. And the way I see dealing with trauma is that it requires us going back into the experience that caused the trauma in a safe space, in that safe container, so that we can help recode the body's response to associate new emotions with the same experience. Mm-hmm. And when that desire is there to recreate the experience of this, if there's sexual abuse or like you said, an experience with a shitty sexual experience, one response is to just withdraw completely from that, and another one is to go back again in that safe space to recreate a different way of doing that. And that's what OM does. OM has all the elements and the setup to make that possible. No pressure, no goal, no reciprocity, all of that. And what I tell all my clients is to really be gentle with yourself and be in approval of what is arising. And if you're feeling a lot of fear, great. The fact that you're feeling the fear and naming it to yourself, that's awesome. That's a great step. Also name the 51% of desire that you're feeling. And that's awesome too. All the other stuff that will arise is normal, and it's about being really in approval of whatever is happening to you, which is different from creating story that that something is just meant to be that way. By approval, I mean really just being gentle with yourself and saying, like, okay, it's okay that I'm scared. Right. It's okay that I'm, freaking out. It's okay that I want it. And go from there. Nice. And then, of course, having support to go through this. This is critical. I started out with a coach from One Taste, and it took me a month and a half before I did the practice because the fear was greater than the desire, and the desire was there underneath. And so working with a coach is really critical in this because this is hard stuff. This is really deep, profoundly deep, and profoundly human experience. So.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind is, as a piece of my Beyond Surviving program, I do a lesson on sexuality, and for me, the main kind of takeaway from that particular lesson is all about distinguishing sex and sexuality as obligation from sex and sexuality as choice. And of course, when there's abuse, it's all out of obligation. And, adult sexuality is about embracing that you have choice now. You get to say no. You get to decide how you want to be touched. You get to decide when you want to be touched. And I love that element in the OM practice of, really getting to be the director of the experience and being so tuned in to that and choosing and just practicing choosing, because I think that's just so empowering for women, all women regardless, to be able to be in that position of choosing for themselves what they, want to experience and feel.
Absolutely. And in an OM, there's no obligation in terms of obligation to the partner, and there's also no obligation to yourself to do anything, but right. to feel or to ask for the stroke that you want. And for some women, oming may be just having the stroker's finger on the clit without any movement because they're so sensitive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For other women, they prefer faster strokes or upstrokes or downstrokes. Whatever it is, there's no obligation to do it any which way other than whatever feels right for you.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever started out working with a client? One of the things that I have experienced with some of my clients is they're so disconnected that going straight to the hot zone it's like too much too soon, right? And mm-hmm. so one client who comes to mind who hadn't really had sex with her husband for like 3 years, we started with, sit an inch closer on the couch and then, and without getting up and running away, right? And then just sit and hold hands for 10 minutes and see how that feels. And kind of coming at it from that perspective of you can almost apply this practice in some ways to to just creating connection and touch and being in the presence of another person. And I really think that a lot of these same philosophy, the tenets that you talked about can apply there. And so you can kind of work your way up to those kind of the more intimate touch. Do you agree with that? Does that make sense? Is there any, yeah.
I mean, yeah, wanted to wholeheartedly say that I absolutely agree with that. Mm-hmm. And the tenets of the practice can be applied in almost like mini ohms that don't have to be on the clit, but, between I also worked with a couple that did not have sex for many years, and starting out with just him stroking her arm with the same exact principles and tenets in place. No goal, exquisite attention, and simplicity of just stroking her arm for 5 minutes and noticing the sensations, noticing what comes up in your head. Same thing.
Right.
And starting very
Love
small.
That.
And there's definitely variability in terms of the people that I work with, what is appropriate for them in the moment.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good to really highlight for everyone who's listening is that piece of it, that you can really take it and broadly apply it to other things. So, again, anybody who's listening, if you want to ask a question, you can press *6 or 1 on your phone, or you can text me at 650-283-5215. And I want to know if it's not – go ahead.
I also want to welcome any questions you have. Welcome you to send me an email as well with any questions after we get off the phone, and that's ignitedwoman@gmail.com.
Yeah, perfect. So if it's not too personal, I want to hear how your sex life has changed. How are you getting down these days?
Oh my God, did it ever change? I'm blushing here. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah, I made you blush. Good.
I went from absolutely no desire and libido to just being so turned on. And for me, OM is like a daily nutrient that I take in that fills me up, and then I have all this energy. But, I think of it as sexual energy that can be spent sexually, that is having sex, or it can be spent doing other things. And yeah, I'm loving sex these days because it's right now all about connection. And principles of OM just seep into sex, seamlessly. It's about knowing my body, not being ashamed of what it is and what it looks like, not being in my head to worry about whether I'm doing it right, and really connecting to my partner and playing and exploring. And it's just, it shifted so deeply. And, you know, sometimes it's really quiet and gentle. Other times it's really rough, and it spans the spectrum. And I'm in approval of all of it, and I'm just learning how to enjoy all of it and, you know, create through it, play with it. So it's a lot of fun.
Nice. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, and you know, one of the things that you touched on earlier that I think for particularly for this segment that's really all about the ladies is, you know, that spaghetti brain and, you know, the struggle that we sometimes have to just stop thinking about it, stop trying to figure it out, stop trying to do something about it, right? And it comes, and one of my favorite quotes is like, she does the laundry when she's having sex and has sex when she's doing the laundry, you know? Like the complete flip-flop. So, you know, do you have any tips for, you know, how women can get out of their heads and be more present?
Oh, gosh. I know this one very personally. And that's a really hard one to retrain ourselves from. What I learned from meditation, and I did 5 years or so of sitting meditation before coming to Om, and then, of course, through Oming, is that, you know, instead of trying to stop the mind chatter and the to-do list, instead of, like, forcing ourselves, being like, stop it, this is, you know, don't do this, and being hard on ourselves, instead of that, focus on what is going on in your body. They start focusing, you know, pick up a sensation, tune into a sensation in your body, and start tracking it, and focus on that. And, of course, your mind will trail off, and you'll go back to the to-do list or planning the vacation, worrying about the kids' fever. And it's about just acknowledging that your mind went off again and doing it without judgment, letting go of judgment that, oh, I did this again. And refocusing back on that sensation. You know, it could be something like, I have an itch on my ankle, or I have heat traveling down my leg, or I'm feeling tingling in my toe, and focusing on that and learning to focus your mind on your body and on your sensations instead of trying to stop the mind chatter.
Oh, that's really profoundly good. It's like instead of trying to stop the brain, start the body, turn on the body, instead of trying to turn off the brain, right? To go back to like, what do I feel in my toes, or how do my thighs feel right now, or what's going on in my neck? Yeah, I love that. That's really helpful.
Whatever we put attention on expands and grows, and so if we're putting attention on what's not working, it's going to continue not working. And when we put attention on...
And I could make a really off-color joke right there, but I won't.
We can do it offline.
That's awesome, Irene. Oh, my goodness. You're fabulous. So, you know, I think what I want to do is just one final piece here that I know is really near and dear to your heart is this connection between women being empowered and sexuality. So maybe just to kind of wrap up and top things off for tonight, you could talk a little bit about that and then say a little bit more about where you're taking us next for people who are going to be joining us next week when we have both men and women on the line.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, for me, my experience of how sexuality seeped into other areas of my life was just super profound, and it led me to really see how sexuality and women's power is connected. And when I speak about women's empowerment, I mean that inner psychic empowerment, women feeling empowered and feeling confident. And that is a prerequisite to women actually being empowered out in the world. You know, legislation can't do that for us. We have to do that for ourselves and learn how to love ourselves and how to accept ourselves and how to, you know, withstand all that shit that comes our way in society and, you know, in relationships, all that stuff. How do we actually stand our ground and stand in our power?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm becoming more and more convinced that a woman's fire is in her turn on. You know, the way women express our zest for life or our life force is erotically. That is, you know, the erotic part doesn't have to be sexual. It could be doing the work that we love, enjoying a beautiful landscape or a culinary delight. And, of course, it can be sex. But it's how we experience what is pleasurable to us is fundamentally erotic. It turns us on. It turns our bodies on. The light switch goes on and we feel alive. And so that's why I'm so passionate about helping women get turned on sexually, because it just reverberates everywhere in the rest of our lives. And I believe that women, you know, we have an important job to do in the world, that our world today is so lacking in connection and empathy and love. And we have a big job to do, and that empowerment starts inside so that we can enjoy ourselves, enjoy our bodies, and then go out and stand for what we believe in.
Nice.
So, and be confident in ourselves. That's the biggest piece. And again, like for me, it started out asking for a raise for myself and things like that, and then building up from that.
Beautiful. That's awesome, Irene. I'm really inspired by that. I think it's beautiful, and I think you're the right woman for the job to inspire and to bring us along with you in that. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So
and
everybody,
then,
go ahead.
Next week, I wanted to mention just really quickly that next week is that I will address both men and women, and I want to share how both partners can connect deeply through this practice around communication, about connection, and see this as almost like a spiritual path, a place where both partners can tap into their own sexuality and then connect to each other deeply. So that will be the topic of next week's talk.
Awesome.
Which I'm very excited about.
Very cool. Yeah, and even if you're on the line and you're a single lady, it's no excuse. You come join us next week, because I'm sure what Irene's going to be sharing, if not immediately applicable, is going to be there for you. And especially if you decide to take on going to one of the One Taste events and going to an OM and getting connected to a partner there as well. So I really encourage everybody to come back with us next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, same time, same place. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or any concerns, you can email Irene at ignitedwoman@gmail.com, or you can email me, coach@rachelgrantcoaching.com. And really so happy to have all of you here. And Irene, thank you so much for sharing this wisdom and amazing perspective with all of us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure.